It looks fine, sounds fine, rides like a dream. But under the surface, you could be slowly ruining your bike and not even know it. From cooked engines to brake failures waiting to happen, here are 15 things you should never do to your motorcycle. Number 15, skipping oil changes. Think you're saving time by putting off that oil change? Well, think again, because that mindset will make your motorcycle the mechanic's best friend. Oil is the lifeblood of your engine. It keeps things cool, cuts down friction, and prevents metal-on-metal violence between your pistons, crankshaft, and connecting rods. But here's the thing. The oil doesn't last forever. Over time, it breaks down, collects debris, and turns into sludge. So skip enough oil changes, and you're basically bathing your engine in grit. That sludge chokes off lubrication. Performance drops fast. Acceleration feels sluggish. Throttle response dulls. And suddenly, your smooth-running engine becomes a ticking time bomb. Your bike starts working harder, burning hotter, and sounding rougher, and you won't even realize how bad it is until it's too late. Best case scenario, you're looking at worn-out parts and poor fuel efficiency. Worst case, you blow the engine. A $40 to $70 oil change bill now becomes a $3,000 rebuild bill or more. The rule is to change it every 3,000 to 5,000 kilometers, or at least once a year. But what if you just bought a used bike and don't know when the last oil change happened? Well, there's a way to tell. Check the oil color. Fresh oil is light brown and translucent. If it's black and murky on the dipstick, it's overdue. Feel the texture. Rub a bit between your fingers. If it feels gritty or thick, it's full of debris, and that debris is grinding down your engine. Listen to your engine. Hear more ticking or top-end noise than usual? That's a sign your oil's gone bad and friction is winning. Clean oil is cheap. Engine failure isn't. But is all oil good? Let's see what the next mistake has to say. Number 14, using car oil in your motorcycle. You might think oil is oil, but using car oil in your motorcycle is like using dish soap in your gas tank. It might not kill it instantly, but the damage is real and it adds up fast. Car oil and motorcycle oil sure look the same in the bottle, but they're built for two completely different beasts. Here's the hard truth. Motorcycles aren't cars. They rev higher, run hotter, and rely on oil to do everything. In most bikes, the same oil lubricates the engine, transmission, and clutch. That means it needs to handle intense heat, resist foaming at high RPMs, and maintain viscosity under brutal stress. Car oils aren't built for that. Many car oils contain friction modifiers, which are great for fuel economy in sedans, but terrible for a wet clutch system. These additives cause slippage, soft engagement, and eventually a clutch that won't grab when you need it most. And that's just the beginning. Car oil can't handle the high shear stress or blistering temperatures inside a motorcycle engine. It breaks down faster, loses viscosity, and leaves your internals vulnerable. Over time, you're looking at increased engine wear, rough shifting, and even full-on transmission failure. In a pinch? Sure, you can run car oil if the viscosity matches and you're desperate, but you'd better drain it out and replace it with proper motorcycle-specific oil ASAP. Because motorcycle oil is built for the job. It keeps your motor cool, your gearbox smooth, and your clutch biting like it should. So don't get clever, don't cut corners, and definitely don't believe that all oils are the same nonsense. Your bike is not a Honda Civic. Treat it like one, and you'll pay like you totaled it. Moving on to number 13. Neglecting your chain. Your chain is the final link between engine power and road grip, and if you ignore it, you're asking for trouble. Big, expensive, dangerous trouble. Unlike your engine or transmission, the chain is out in the open. It's constantly exposed to dust, water, grit, and grime. If you don't keep it clean, aligned, and lubricated, it won't simply wear out. It'll take your sprockets and drivetrain down with it. Too loose, and it starts skipping under acceleration. Too tight, and you're placing extreme stress on your gearbox, swing arm, and rear axle. Either way, the result is jerky performance, premature part failure, and a ride that feels more like a rodeo. Worse still, a neglected chain can snap or jump off mid-ride. That means sudden loss of power, loss of control, and potentially a crash. One bad skip at the wrong time, like mid-corner or while braking, can send you and your bike sliding into disaster. And it's not just performance you're sacrificing. Vibration from a misaligned chain can wreck your bearings and frame mounts. A chain that's bone dry or caked in grit eats through metal like sandpaper at 60 miles per hour. Fixing it isn't rocket science, though. Start by measuring your chain's slack with the wheels on the ground, not the center stand. Lube it regularly, especially after riding in the rain or off-road. And don't skip cleaning it first, because dirt mixed with oil turns into grinding paste. Then, when it's time, replace the chain and sprockets as a set, not one at a time. And for the love of sanity, don't try to eyeball it. Rather, check your manual for the proper tension and alignment. Ignoring your chain might save a few minutes now, but it'll cost you cash, control, and possibly some skin later. Take care of it, or find out the hard way what losing drive at 70 miles per hour really feels like. But chains aren't the only thing people forget. You know what else gets abused? Cold engines. Number 12, revving a cold engine. You just fired up your bike, the engine's purring, and you're tempted to twist that throttle and feel it roar. Don't. Revving a cold engine is one of the fastest ways to kill its longevity and wreck performance. It's like forcing a sprinter to run full speed the moment they roll out of bed. They might end up pulling a muscle or something. Same goes for your bike. Something's going to pull, grind, or snap. Here's why it matters. A cold engine isn't ready for high stress. The internal components, such as your pistons, crankshaft, and valve train, are still tight and haven't expanded to their optimal operating clearances. Add cold, thick oil to the mix, and you're basically running a metal-on-metal gamble. The oil hasn't fully circulated yet, and it definitely hasn't thinned enough to reach every corner of the engine. So the result will just be accelerated wear from increased friction. You also run the risk of seizing, especially in two-stroke engines, where a cold piston can expand faster than the cylinder, locking everything up in a heartbeat. Your valve train, which controls your intake and exhaust rhythm, takes a serious beating too. Cold revs mean more strain on valve springs, tappets, and lifters, and more money out of your pocket later. And let's be real, you gain nothing by revving early. There's no power benefit, no cool points, just more wear and more risk. Want to protect your engine? Let it idle for a minute or two. Roll out gently, keep the revs low, and give the motor time to warm up under light load. Once the temperature's stable, then you can open it up. Engines don't need drama, they need patience. Rev it cold, and you might as well start budgeting for repairs, because one bad morning twist could turn into a full-blown rebuild. At number 11 we have letting your battery die repeatedly. If your motorcycle battery keeps dying and you keep ignoring it, you are basically killing the battery. Motorcycle batteries, especially lead-acid types, don't like to be run down to empty. Every deep discharge wears away at the internal active material that makes it work. Do it enough times and you're left with a battery that looks fine on the outside, but can't hold a charge for more than a few minutes. Here's the science. Lead-acid batteries are designed for short, shallow discharge cycles, so when you drain them to the bottom repeatedly, the battery plates begin to corrode. Internal connections weaken. Sulfation builds up. Even if you fully recharge it, the capacity is permanently reduced. Eventually, your battery will fake being alive. Full charge on the voltmeter, but as soon as you hit the starter, it collapses. This is the classic sign of a dying battery that could set you back $100 or more for a decent replacement. And if you don't address the root cause, you'll burn through replacements like fuses. Avoiding battery trouble isn't complicated though, as you just have to stay on top of a few basics. Ride regularly so your alternator can keep the charge topped off. If your bike's in storage, hook it up to a battery tender or maintainer to keep it alive. Watch for parasitic drains like faulty electronics that quietly siphon power even when the bike's off. And always keep the terminals clean and tight because loose or corroded connections mess with charging and spark delivery. A dead battery might seem like a small hassle, but if it keeps dying, it starts causing long-term damage and eventually fails when you least expect it. Unless you enjoy pushing your bike home or hearing nothing but a sad click, click, click when you hit the starter, take care of your battery. But dead batteries don't kill as much as. Number 10, skipping brake checks. Your throttle might get all the glory, but it's your brakes that save your life. Neglecting brake maintenance is one of the most dangerous mistakes you can make as a rider. It affects more than performance. It also places you closer to disaster. Worn pads, low fluid, or a failing master cylinder won't always scream for attention. Sometimes they whisper. A little fade here, a soft lever there, until the moment you need full stopping power, and it's just not there. Reduced stopping power? That's how you turn a near miss into a full-blown collision. Longer stopping distance? That's the difference between braking at the crosswalk or in someone's bumper. Total failure during an emergency stop. That's the kind of moment riders don't walk away from. When it comes to brakes, here's what you need to stay sharp on. Start with pad thickness. If they're worn too thin, they lose their bite. Next, check the condition of your rotors or drums. Cracks and grooves are a sign your stopping power is already compromised. Brake fluid matters too, because if it's low or dark, you're flirting with failure. Pay attention to how your levers or pedals feel. If they're soft, spongy, or sluggish, something's wrong. And if you spot any fluid around your calipers or master cylinder, that's a red flag you can't ignore. This isn't a once-a-year kind of check. You should be looking over your brakes before every ride, especially if the bike's been sitting. Get professional inspections on a schedule, not when something starts squealing. And don't wait until your pads or fluid fail. Swap them out according to the manual, not your mood. Your brakes are your last line of defense. Don't wait until they give out to realize just how much you depended on them. Speaking of brakes, we have Number 9, misusing the front brake. Your front brake is powerful. Used right, it's your best friend. Used wrong, it can drop you faster than gravity ever could. Many riders underestimate how dangerous front brake misuse can be, especially at low speeds or during turns. Grab too much brake mid-corner or while creeping through traffic, and you're going down before you know what happened. At slow speeds, the front brake delivers too much stopping power too quickly. If you squeeze it in a tight turn or low-speed maneuver, it shifts the weight forward and pulls the bike down into the lean, tipping you over instantly. That's why experienced riders favor light rear brake control for balance during parking lot turns and U-turns. Then there's the panic factor. Slam on the front brake in a straight line, and if you're lucky, you just skid. If you're not, the front wheel locks, your traction vanishes, you slide, or worse, the rear end lifts off the ground in a stoppie. Hit a bump or a slope, and that nosedive can turn into a full front flip. And it doesn't take much. Always use both brakes. Apply smooth, progressive pressure to the front, but never jab it. That's how you avoid nosedives or lockups. The rear brake helps with balance and stability, especially at lower speeds. Also, understand your bike's brake bias. Some bikes have more aggressive front setups that bite harder. Others favor the rear. So the bottom line is, know your machine. Next on the list of mess-ups is Number 8, neglecting your air filter. Your motorcycle breathes through its air filter, and if that filter is clogged, so is your engine. Neglecting your air filter doesn't simply reduce performance, it slowly suffocates your bike. When airflow is restricted, the engine can't get the oxygen it needs to burn fuel efficiently. So the result is a sluggish throttle, rough idling, hesitation, and a noticeable dip in power. The real danger isn't simply in lost performance, but rather in what gets through. A dirty or damaged air filter lets dust, sand, and grime sneak past and into the combustion chamber. That abrasive debris wears down pistons, fouls spark plugs, and scars cylinder walls. Over time, this can cause premature engine failure and a rebuild that'll empty your wallet. It also wrecks your fuel economy. With bad airflow, your engine compensates by dumping more fuel into the mix. You end up burning gas faster while making less power. That's a lose-lose every rider should avoid. Want to stay ahead of engine trouble? Start with your air filter. Give it a visual check if it's caked in dirt or soaked in oily grime. It's overdue. Pay attention to how your bike sounds and feels. A dirty filter can cause engine vibrations or odd intake noises. Don't wing it. Your manual lays out exactly when to inspect, clean, or replace it, especially if you ride in dusty conditions. If you're running a washable filter, clean it with mild soap. Let it dry completely, then re-oil it before popping it back in. Using a disposable one, don't think twice. Toss it and replace it. This isn't only about horsepower, it's about protecting your engine. A $15 air filter can save you from a $2,000 rebuild. Your engine works hard to breathe, don't choke it with neglect. You might also want to keep in mind number 7, which is overloading your motorcycle. Just because your bike can carry it doesn't mean it should. Overloading is one of the most underestimated dangers in motorcycling. It doesn't look dramatic, but the effects are. From ruined handling to sudden loss of control, exceeding your motorcycle's weight limit puts you, your passenger, and your machine at serious risk. Here's what happens when you overload. Your center of gravity shifts. Suddenly, your bike feels top-heavy. Leaning into turns becomes unpredictable. Your suspension bottoms out. The system isn't designed for that kind of weight, so it compresses too much, reducing shock absorption and control. Braking gets sketchy. More weight equals longer stopping distances. In an emergency, that delay could be the difference between a scare and a crash. Your tires also take a hit, literally. Too much load stresses the sidewalls, flattens contact patches, and increases the risk of blowouts. Add in frame fatigue and extra wear on wheel bearings, and you're racking up future repair bills just to haul a few extra pounds today. And if that's not enough, overloading can void warranties, trigger fines, and if you're in an accident, put you at fault in court for knowingly riding outside the bike's safe limits. Don't just guess your load limit. Always check your bike's gross vehicle weight rating, GVWR. That number accounts for everything: the bike, you, a passenger, gear, and luggage. Keep your load balanced. No lopsided saddlebags throwing you off mid-ride. And if you need to carry extra, upgrade your suspension properly. Your motorcycle was built with a weight limit for a reason. Ignore it and you're trifling with disaster. Sure, it might feel fine now, but wait until you try to stop and realize it's not. Moving on to something you should never, ever do. Number 6, modding without knowing what you're doing. Customizing your bike can be fun until it backfires, literally. Tinkering without understanding the impact of your modifications can turn your motorcycle into an unpredictable, unsafe, and expensive mess. This isn't about slapping on bar-end mirrors or swapping blinkers for LEDs. This is about engine tweaks, suspension changes, and braking upgrades, which are serious mods with serious consequences. Change one component without considering the chain reaction, and you might create a problem you can't fix. Take the exhaust, for example. Slap on an aftermarket system without remapping your ECU, and you could run your engine lean, overheat it, or cause long-term internal damage. Change your suspension without understanding geometry. Now, your bike doesn't corner, it dives, bucks, or wobbles mid-turn. That's how accidents happen. And don't forget braking systems. Mix and match the wrong parts, and suddenly your front brake grabs too hard, or your rear doesn't work at all. You won't find that out until it matters, and by then, it's too late. There are also legal and warranty issues. Modifications that alter emissions or lighting may violate local laws or void your warranty, leaving you stuck with the bill when something breaks. So, if you're thinking about modding your bike, do your homework first. Talk to a professional, or at least someone who's been through it and knows the pitfalls. Don't assume watching a couple of YouTube videos makes you an expert. Always ask yourself, is this upgrade actually improving my ride or just making it riskier? The temptation to save money or stand out is real, but if your DIY job sends your bike to a specialist just to fix your screw-ups, you're not saving anything. Mod smart or mod later when you actually know what you're doing. Because bragging rights don't matter when your ride's unrideable. At number 5 we have neglecting your coolant. Coolant's not some car-only thing. Skip it on your bike, and you're basically asking for a meltdown. It isn't some optional fluid. Coolant circulates through your engine, absorbs heat, and transfers it to the radiator, where it's safely dissipated. Without it, your engine can't regulate its temperature, and things go south fast. Low or degraded coolant means rising engine temperatures. That means warped cylinder heads, blown gaskets, melted pistons, or worse, a seized engine. You might think you'd see it coming, but overheating doesn't always show until it's too late. Watch for the warning signs. The temp gauge drops suddenly, then spikes. The heater, if your bike has one, stops working. White smoke from the tailpipe. Your engine light comes on mid-ride, steam or a sweet smell rising from your bike. If you see any of this, shut it down, cool it off, and check the coolant level. Always inspect the reservoir and radiator once the engine is cold. If the fluid is low, top it off with the manufacturer-recommended coolant, usually pre-mixed ethylene glycol. But topping it up isn't the full fix. If your coolant keeps vanishing, you might have a leak or something worse. Don't guess. Get it checked. Also, coolant breaks down over time. Flush and replace it according to your service manual, which is typically every 2 years. And never mix coolants unless you're 100% sure they're compatible. The bottom line is that engines run hot, and coolant keeps that heat in check. Filling up your coolant is an easy DIY, but you know what isn't? Number 4, over-tightening bolts. Wrenching on your own bike is one of the best ways to learn, but crank a bolt down too hard, and you're now wrecking it. One of the most common and most costly DIY mistakes is over-tightening bolts. You'd think tighter equals safer, but in the world of motorcycle mechanics, too tight is just as bad, sometimes worse than too loose. Here's why. Every bolt on your bike is designed to be tightened to a specific torque setting. This is a precise amount of force that keeps things secure without overstressing the metal. Go beyond that spec, and things start to go sideways fast. You risk stripping threads, especially in engine cases or soft alloy parts, which means the bolt won't hold torque and won't come out clean. Go too far, and you might shear the bolt head right off. Now, you're stuck with an extraction job. Worse, you could deform critical components like fork tubes or engine mounts, throwing off alignment and causing friction and uneven wear. And don't forget safety. A bolt that looks snug but is actually compromised is a silent failure just waiting for the right amount of stress. The fix is a torque wrench. Always use one. Check your service manual for exact torque values and stop feeling it out, because that's how things break. And if you ever find yourself thinking just a little more to be safe, back off. That little extra could turn a 5-minute tweak into a $500 disaster. Get hands-on with your bike, sure, but respect the specs, because when a fastener fails at 80 miles per hour, there are no second chances. Next up, we have number 3, letting your bike stay filthy in winter. Sure, that salt-crusted, mud-splattered bike might scream real rider to your buddies, but underneath that rugged charm will be nothing but rust, rot, and ruin. Riding through winter is tough on you, but it's even tougher on your motorcycle. Roads get coated with salt, grit, and grime meant to keep cars safe, but this same mix is dangerous on your metal. Salt is especially vicious. Leave it on long enough, and it'll chew through your exhaust, frame, spokes, bolts, and anything metallic. You're getting more than corrosion. You're getting pitted chrome, bubbled paint, and bolts that weld themselves in place. Grime buildup can work its way into your chain, brake components, and cables. That leads to stiff controls, reduced braking power, and even slippage on cold, wet roads. Here's how to keep winter from wrecking your ride. After cold weather trips, give the bike a quick rinse. Nothing fancy, just enough to wash off the worst of the grime. Then use a pH-neutral car shampoo that won't eat away at your paint. Hit exposed metal and chrome with anti-corrosion spray. This might attract dirt, but it shields the parts that actually matter. Don't skip the underside of your fenders or the chain area, because that's where corrosion loves to creep in first. 15 minutes of care after a ride can save you hundreds down the line and keep your bike looking and riding like it should. Let's move on to the next screw-up. Number 2, throwing away your stock parts. Everyone gets it. You want your bike to be yours. Maybe it's an aftermarket exhaust, some sleek bar end mirrors, or a sticker kit that makes it pop. Modding is part of the fun. But here's the one thing you should never do. Don't throw away your original parts, ever. That old exhaust system, the factory levers, the mirrors you upgraded, keep them, tuck them in a box, store them in the garage, because while they might not be exciting now, they're your golden ticket later. This is all because of resale value. Not every buyer wants a race pipe that rattles windows or custom plastics covered in your personal flair. Some want factory spec. Others want to make their mark, not ride off with yours. If your bike comes with all the original parts, it becomes way easier to sell, and often at a higher price. There's also the issue of fit and legality. Some aftermarket parts don't meet local regulations. Others may not fit quite right. A buyer might hesitate if they can't easily return the bike to stock. Best practice when modding is to stick to bolt-on parts that are easy to reverse. Avoid cutting, drilling, or making permanent changes unless you're absolutely sure you won't regret it. And when you remove anything, label it and store it properly. You'd be surprised how often those spare parts turn into cash later on. And remember, just because you don't value that heavy stock muffler doesn't mean the next owner won't. Mod your bike all you want, but don't be the rider who regrets tossing the one thing a buyer wants most. And for the one mistake you should absolutely avoid. Number 1, being too proud to ask for help. Too many riders make the mistake of fumbling through maintenance or mods because they're too proud to ask for advice. They assume people will laugh, judge, or act like they're better. But the truth is, every experienced motorcyclist had to learn, and most are more than willing to help if you just ask. Whether it's how to strap on luggage properly, adjust your chain, or set sag on your suspension. If you don't know, don't act like you do. Getting it wrong can wreck your bike, ruin a ride, or injure you and others, all because you didn't speak up. The motorcycle world is full of strong opinions, no doubt. Forums can feel a bit too tense. But out on the road or in the garage, most riders are more than happy to share what they've learned. There's a deep, unspoken respect between those who ride, because riding is a choice. It's a lifestyle. And with that comes community. So ditch the ego. Ask the question. Watch, learn, apply. Your bike and probably your wallet will thank you. And if you are that experienced rider, don't be a gatekeeper. Pass it on. Because what sets motorcyclists apart from the four-wheeled crowd isn't only the machines, but how they look out for one another. Being a rider doesn't mean knowing everything. It means being willing to learn from experience, from mistakes, and from those who've been through it before you. You're part of a brotherhood. And the best part of that, you don't have to ride alone. Got a tip that didn't make the list? Drop it in the comments, smash that like button, subscribe for more, and as always, keep the throttle wide open.